Hey everyone, I'm the Casual Prince, and welcome back to another episode of reviewing The Revenge of Maltazard, the book. It's been quite a while since I've done one of these. I'm actually gonna have a quick look at how long it's actually been since I've done one. This is the top level of professional right here. It's been 4 months, seemingly, since I've done one, and obviously I had the big, like, multiple month break, where I couldn't really do any videos, so, yes, that's understandable. But we're back. I've just had a read-through of Chapter 11. Not a lot happened, but, I'm going to go, and I'm going to sort of explain what happened. So, we picked off last time, from where we left off last time. That was awful grammar, but anyway. Basically, Arthur finally made it back into the Seven Kingdoms and landed in Max's bar with his 7 wives, and now he's convinced Max to, help him on his journey back to the First Kingdom to see if the Minimoys are okay. The first sort of half of this chapter is him and Max cruising down Paradise Alley. It's not actually stated that the street is called Paradise Alley in the book, seemingly, but you know, we know that that's where it is. It's actually stated that Max has a lot of different vehicles, some of which I don't actually think we've been introduced to before. It states that there are a few gamels, which I can't specifically remember what gamels referred to. I think it's probably some sort of insect from the first book. It also says a limonomate, which is apparently very useful for group trips, and it also says that Max has a battle crab, which is equipped with defensive spikes, and that he named the crab Lobster, which is quite funny, to be perfectly honest. Now I don't know if that's if a battle crab is another name for some variety of insect in the Seven Kingdoms, or if Max actually legitimately has a crab in his garage. I'm not sure how he would have a crab in the Seven Kingdoms, considering, you know, you usually really only find them on, like, beaches. So, I'm not entirely certain, but it's definitely unusual. But it does state that they're taking the beetle, which is no surprise. But the book states that Max seemingly found the black dots on the ladybug too sad. So, the ladybug is now pink with yellow and blue spots, and I cannot, for the life of me, imagine what that looks like. Well, I mean, I can, but I kind of don't want to, just because it looks so hideous in my head. And Arthur's just like, you know, aren't we going to draw attention because of that? And he's just like, well, yeah, but then he introduces Arthur to the term of cruising, as he does in the movie. And the next, like, 2 pages is basically, Max sort of talking and explaining cruising to Arthur, and a lot of descriptions of the other creatures that are within Paradise Alley. And we actually get some sort of a, we actually get somewhat of a cameo from one of the creatures that was introduced in the second book, Arthur and the Forbidden City, which is the Baelong Botos. which are the long-eared creatures that live in the Third Land. They were introduced in the second book, if you didn't know, when Arthur, Selenia, and Beda were in the Necropolis Market, and that's when we got a load of sort of backstory of the different creatures that live in the different lands. It sort of irritates me that I didn't include the Beilongbotos in Arthur 5 when they were in the Third Kingdom. But, you know, oh well. Well, to be honest, like, just because I only showed Acropolis in Arthur 5, that's, you know, that's not the entirety of the Third Kingdom. The Acropolis is the capital of the Third Kingdom, but obviously the Third Kingdom encompasses more than that. It's like a large part of the forest. So, you know, there could be Beilongbotos just, I suppose, not living in Acropolis, seeing as that's seemingly a Minimoy-only city. So yeah, we get a cameo from them, and we also get a cameo that I was really not expecting. And it's probably my favourite line. Arthur is surprised at the sight of old retired sage, nagging the pedestrians to beg a few crumbs of bellicorns, the national cake as we all know, out of them. Yeah, bellicorns were also something introduced in the second book. They were like cookies, that were made using a bunch of different ingredients, including caterpillar eggs, which caused Arthur to, vomit all over one of the salesmen. You know, I'm actually gonna... Oh, give me a sec. I'm actually gonna grab my copy of Arthur and the Forbidden City and see if I can find... where it's stated about the bellicorns.
12 seconds later.
Ah, yes, here we go. Benemis states that bellicorns are dough made of sentinel, soaked in gamel's milk, then mixed with eggs to hold it together, sprinkled with chopped nuts, and covered with a delicious rosewater syrup. Yeah, and Arthur states these look like cookies. They actually sound a bit like gazelle horns, cookies his grandmother made from time to time using a recipe that she'd brought back from Africa. So, it's kind of cool to see Bearson bringing back all of these little details that were introduced in the other two books. But frankly, I'm more surprised at the whole thing about the retired sage. I didn't really think about that, to be honest, because it's never stated in the movies, but in the books it's actually revealed that Sage are Minimoys who have been kidnapped by Maltazard and, like, corrupted using, like, I don't know, it's probably multiple different methods of torture and stuff like that. And there's actually a little bit of a scene, like a tiny bit at the end of a chapter in the first book, I believe, where it's shown that these Sage that have been captured in the attack on the First Kingdom are being sort of slowly converted back to Minimoys through, like, happy music and stuff. So, it's kind of interesting, because I wouldn't expect Sage to get to the age where they would retire. And obviously, in the book, we've not really been... This is kind of early days now. Like, Arthur's only just entered the Seven Kingdoms again, like, a day ago. Well, not even a day ago, like, a chapter ago. I don't know why I got a day ago from. So, like, Max hasn't mentioned Crobe or anything about that. We haven't seen any unicorns. We frankly don't really know what state the Seven Kingdoms is in at its current point. Max hasn't really given us any context about what's going on. I imagine that in chapter 12 we're probably going to get some context, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm interested to see whether Crobe is actually, a villain present in the books, or whether he was created simply for the movies. I'm pretty sure I heard, someone mention ages back that Crobe was in the books, and I really don't think that Crobe is something they would make up for the movies. It seems too much of a big of a detail. But then again, they did make up a lot of different things for the movies that weren't present in the books. I can't think of any at the current moment, but you know. So yeah, I'm quite surprised, because like I wouldn't expect Sage to live to the age where they would go into retirement, but like I was saying, we don't know what the Seven Kingdoms really knows about Maltazard, because he escaped at the end of, obviously, the first movie and the second book, and we don't really know what he's been doing since then. Well, we do know what he's been doing. He's been hanging around in Arthur's house, but we don't know what the Seven Kingdoms thinks he's been doing. Like, we don't know if anyone's seen him, or if, like, you know, what happened to his army. Granted, most of the Sage probably drowned in Necropolis, but clearly, from this chapter, we can see that at least some survived. So, I suppose that, given that the Sage didn't really have a leader anymore, they're just sort of lost now. I mean, it's surprising that they're still Sage existing then, if Maltazard isn't really there to lead them anymore, seeing as, like, it's stated in the first book that Sage are corrupted Minimoys, so surely the Minimoys would just go out looking for them and sort of just turn them back into Minimoys so they could live good lives again. But like I said, we don't have a lot of context as to what the Seven Kingdoms has become nowadays, so hopefully we'll get that context soon. Nothing much else happens in regards to Arthur and Max. They sort of just keep on cruising, and then Arthur just like, come on, we need to get a move on, and Max, opens up the wings of the beetle and starts flying over the crowd. Then we swap to the perspective of Armand and Rose, who are driving back at, and I quote, where does it say? What does it say? How fast is he going? Yeah, after realizing that Arthur has disappeared, Armand is racing down the countryside road at, over 130 kilometers per hour. I'm actually going to do a conversion of that to miles per hour. This is amazing professionalism, I think you agree. Kilometers per hour to mph. Go. It says over 130, but I'll just put in 130, just, she was going at 80 miles an hour down the road. That's quite fast. So, and it talks briefly about how, Armand is suddenly sort of feeling actual affection for Arthur, given that, you know, he's sort of realised that he doesn't know where he is, and that sent him into a bit of a panic, which is sort of what happens in the movie anyway. So Armand's starting to develop now from, you know, the complete asshole that he was at the start of the Revenge of Maltazard, forcing Arthur to leave before the 10th moon. We're starting to see the progression a little bit now. Obviously, like, he's still an asshole for the most part, until the very end of the War of Two Worlds. So, we're gonna probably have to wait quite a while to sort of see his actual full progression into an actual loving father, but, you know, I suppose this is just sort of something to start the ball rolling. And then comes the inevitable collision It's actually described as a lot more sort of violent, I guess, in the book than it is shown in the movie. And once again, that sort of goes down to the fact that the books were intended for a slightly older audience than the movies. And basically, like, he's going 80 miles an hour, and it seems like there's not even the herd of goats isn't even in the distance. They just sort of cross out of nowhere onto the road, and he slams on the brakes and his tires block up. So he's there, his car is literally sliding down the road, and he's got no control over it whatsoever. And obviously most of the herd sort of just runs away, but you know, the alpha, he stands his ground and smashes his head into the front of the car. And it's just sort of described as a lot more sort of violent in the book, because it's shown, like, it tells us Rose, like, smacked her head against the windscreen and started screaming. That just sounds really, really terrifying. So yeah, and the chapter sort of ends with Armand swearing on himself, on all that's holy, that he'll never polish the sheep on the sheep sort of figurehead on the front of his car again, even if it looks good. So guys, that was my review of Chapter 11 of Arthur and the Revenge of Maltazard. Not a lot happened, but it was good to see some appearances that were recognisable from the other books, like the Baelong Botos, the Bellicorns, and the Retired Sage, which I was definitely not expecting. So, I'm excited to read the next chapter. I think I'll have to wait a little bit, seeing as I believe our translator is currently on holiday, so, you know, have to wait a little bit until chapter 12, but I genuinely can't wait to read the next chapter, and it's brilliant to read this content, which is, you know, like, genuinely official, and, you know, it's amazing. So, thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I will see you on another video very, very soon. Goodbye, everyone.